Richard here, and in this video I'm going to share with you a recent epiphany that I've come to a few months ago about manifestation. And knowing this epiphany is going to allow you to manifest the things you want into your life faster, but without feeling as if you're fighting with yourself and your emotions and your thoughts. Stick around till the end of this video to fully understand how this epiphany has shaped my views on manifestation, and knowing this is going to allow you to manifest your goals much faster without putting up a fight towards this external reality and without fighting your internal thoughts and emotions. Before I get into it, if you want to get free access to my digital ebook, it's called Manifest Your Ideal Life Faster. In this book, I go into the 5 principles that, if adopted, will allow you to master your internal world. And remember, your internal world shapes your outer world, but you will manifest your goals and keep it as well, without just manifesting something only to lose that thing because you weren't actually the ideal self. You were just relying on some technique to get this quick text from a specific person or to, win some money off a scratch-off ticket, but it's never consistent. It's never sustainable. So if you want to get instant access to this book, I put the link in the description box below. It's at the very top. So go down there and click that link to get instant access to this book for completely free. But without further ado, let's get started. My manifestation experience mainly has begun from, learning about the law of attraction and getting into all these techniques like affirmations, scripting, visualizing. I'm sure you already get it. And while those techniques have given me a lot of results, they weren't necessarily consistent. So for example, if I used some money affirmations, I would manifest like a random $300 on the sidewalk. And it worked for me, but it was very inconsistent. After I would manifest that random $300, I wouldn't see any money manifestation for a very long time. It was very inconsistent. And I didn't understand why this was the case. I always thought that manifestation had everything to do with techniques and only using techniques as a means of manifesting. As time went on, I started focusing more from techniques to the core principles of creating your life. And when I was learning about these principles, I learned about the principle of neutrality and indifference, if you will. So essentially what neutrality is, it's basically a state of being non-biased. You're neither siding towards the good side of life or the bad side of life, but you're being a bystander. And as a creator, I thought this is very important because when we identify with the good things of life, then we'll suffer when we experience things that we perceive to be bad because we're identified with this physical reality. And what I learned was that when you identify with the positive aspects of life, you will suffer when you experience the negative aspects of life because you're identifying with it. However you want to interpret that, whether that has to do with this physical reality or if it has to do with your internal thoughts and emotions. Like, for example, if you identify with your positive emotions, then you're going to suffer whenever you feel any negative emotions because you're so clingy to the positive emotions that when you feel negative, you cling to the negative emotions. When you identify with those emotions, the effects that they have on you are doubled. If you disidentify with those emotions, they wouldn't have a pull on you because you're not identified with it. And this principle is very powerful because by taking a step back and not siding so much with what you think is good or bad, and instead acknowledging everything as equal, then it allows you to not over exaggerate any unexpected setbacks that you go through. And instead, it allows you to be more clear-minded and understanding that all events are innately neutral, but we attach a meaning towards the event. And so we can use this consciousness to attach a desired meaning towards an event. When I started applying the principle of neutrality into my life, I stopped fighting with my emotions. I was able to let go more easily. I was able to control my internal state. And I started living life with a greater sense of well-being without fighting with this physical reality. And things started to go my way more. My finances, my relationships, my physical health, my emotional health, everything. It was much easier because I stopped identifying so hard with the things around me and the things happening internally. But I started to realize something. When I applied the principle of neutrality into my life, I didn't once question whether I was identifying with a neutrality in the first place. When I was in that state of being empty, if you will, or being neutral, not trying to feel good and not trying to avoid the bad. When I was in that state, you will find that you will tend to identify with that state itself, that state of neutrality. And when you identify with anything and you become attached to it, like too attached, because again, we all have attachments because we're humans. But if our attachment is too much, if it creates too much importance, then that thing will be taken away from you. So for example, I see some people, they do their best to remain positive and be in this positive frame of mind all the time. They're attached to this frame of mind. And because they're so attached to this frame of mind, a thought that they perceive to be negative is going to show up and disrupt this attachment, because it's all because of this attachment. You don't need to think positive and be attached to the positive thinking. You don't need to. But because this person is, they think these negative thoughts for the sole purpose of lowering this attachment to balance out this energetic field. And so then they can think positive thoughts and remain in that positive state. So because they're so attached to being positive, they'll find that they'll be induced into a negative state, or at least what they would perceive to be negative. Essentially, that is what I did. I attached so much importance towards being neutral that I experienced events that put me in this state of non-neutrality. So I was either in a very negative state or a very positive state. And so that's why when I identified with neutrality itself, or what I thought to be neutral, I suffered whenever I felt too good and whenever I felt negative. I got into the state of neutrality when I stopped identifying with what I thought was good and bad. But then I had to stop identifying with neutrality itself, because this identification didn't really stem from neutrality in the first place. Real neutrality is not even identifying with neutrality itself. Really think about that. Learn to stop identifying so much with even neutrality itself. Even if you're in a state of balance, don't attach yourself so much towards that balanced state, because real neutrality isn't identifying with neutrality itself. And that's exactly what I was doing. I was identifying with neutrality. And so that is why I experienced events that made me feel as if I wasn't being neutral, whatever I thought to be neutral. One tip that I suggest to be in this state of neutrality for much longer is having pure indifference. What pure indifference does is it allows you to not be subject to negative or positive emotions, and even the balanced state. which is neutrality. The positive emotions and the negative emotions don't have sway over you, but even the balanced state in the first place. You're not affected by any of the three. You acknowledge the three, but you're not subject to it. You're not being pulled around by it. And you're just observing it. And you could accept it as well. When you're indifferent, even when you feel negative, and when you feel too good, and even when you feel neutral, then you will always remain in that balanced state because you're not subject to any of them. You can feel them, you will. You will get negative thoughts. You'll feel negative emotions, and vice versa with the positive thoughts and emotions. But you don't need to be so reactive and be subject to the every whim of what you feel, because that is only the conditioning that you've been through for so many years and potentially decades. By allowing all of these emotions to run their course, positive, negative, and even neutral, then and only then can you really be in a state of balance. And I want to clarify what I mean by state. It's a frame of mind. It's not necessarily an emotion or an energetic state. It does follow, but it's a state of mind first. You embracing the positive, negative, and even the neutral state of being. That is what allows you to remain in that balanced state without fighting with your physical reality and without fighting with your internal thoughts and emotions. And this is going to allow you to manifest what you want faster because you're not in a state of resistance. You're in a state of allowance. So I hope you found this video helpful in any way. And if this seemed a bit abstract, I do apologize, but this was just a realization that I wanted to put out. And if you found this helpful, like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell so you'll be notified of any new video that I post. And if you want to watch a video that goes into importance on how to lower it so you can manifest what you want faster and lower this resistance, because it really is the resistance that's blocking you from receiving what you want. If you want to watch this video, I'll link it up here so you can check it out. And remember, if you want to get access to my free ebook, Manifest Your Ideal Life Faster, the link is also in the description below. So go down there and click that link to get instant access to this book for completely free. And without further ado, see you next time. Peace.